Imagine a 6'6" man pushing 450 pounds, jogging onto a practice field with coaches whispering, trainers watching heart rates, and scouts scribbling notes. The image alone stops conversations. That's the reality the Buccaneers just invited back into their building. Desmond Watson, once listed at 464 pounds at his pro day, now getting a second look on Tampa Bay's practice squad after showing improved conditioning. It's equal parts headline and football puzzle. Is this a stunt, a savvy depth move, a gamble with upside too tempting to ignore? The short answer, all of the above, and a test of how modern NFL teams convert extraordinary size into football value without turning it into a roster liability. First, the context. Why the Bucs even considered him on. Tampa Bay's defensive line took a hit this season when 2023 first-round pick Khalija Kancey went down for the year. Depth matters more than ever in today's NFL. Rotating linemen, stuffing the run, and surviving grind-of-season attrition are basic prerequisites for a playoff push. Watson's size is an outlier even by line standards. No active player currently tops 400 pounds. That kind of mass, if properly channeled, can clog running lanes, demand double teams, and free up linebackers to make plays. Those are tangible, situational advantages, particularly on short yardage, goal line, or inside run downs. Todd Bowles' public line, "We'll never bring him in just to stop a tush push," is coach speak for "we want a football player, not a billboard," but it also signals the team sees potential beyond a single gimmick. What Watson realistically offers on the field, think of Watson like a specialty tool, not a Swiss Army knife. In the right package, he could be devastating. Nose tackle snaps in heavy personnel, 2-minute defensive stands where the other team needs short yardage gains, or goal line defense where vertical gap control is everything. His mass can create instantaneous leverage. If he can consistently hold ground and occupy two blockers, that's a win for a defense focused on freeing up playmakers. But there are real limits. At that weight, lateral quickness and stamina become limiting factors. Modern NFL defenses prize rotation and conditioning, players who can sustain multiple high-effort snaps per series. Watson will almost certainly be unable to take on those workloads early. He's not a three-down pass rusher. He's not a space-eating disruptor across an entire game. The most realistic usage is highly packaged, short bursts, highly coached technique, and situational deployment. The conditioning story matters far more than the headlines matterings. What changed enough for the Bucs to re-sign Watson wasn't just that he's big. It was that he reportedly showed improved conditioning in a workout. That's a critical detail. A 460-pound athlete who can move well enough to execute gap sound technique and breathe through 1 to 2 series stints becomes useful. The staff will want to see benchmarks, sustainable submaximal heart rate during drills, the ability to get off the line and push, quick recovery in the sideline tent, and the strength-to-weight ratio for effective hand placement and finishing blocks. From a development perspective, there's a roadmap. Bring his weight down to a functional target. Even a 20 to 40-pound reduction is meaningful. Build cardiovascular base, strengthen hips and posterior chain to prevent injury, and teach leverage-first handwork so he wins with technique rather than brute force. Every pound lost that is replaced by mobility and conditioning converts headline weight into usable production. Practice squad mechanics and the path to game day. The practice squad is the perfect sandbox for this experiment. NFL rules allow teams to elevate practice squad players for game days a handful of times without burning a standard roster spot. That gives the Bucs flexibility to test Watson in controlled scenarios. It also buys the coaching staff time to install him in specific packages and to see whether he responds to game script stress. If he's ever active, expect very conservative usage, a handful of snaps in short yardage series, heavy personnel groupings, perhaps some specialized stunting where his body can be a wedge. Coaches will track not only production, but recovery and the domino effect on blocking schemes. Does he free up a linebacker? Does he get pushed back and create cutbacks? Do opposing coordinators simply run around him? Those answers determine whether this becomes a recurring tool or a one-off curiosity. Health, risk, and optics. This is the harder conversation. Players of extreme size face increased orthopedic risk, cardiometabolic concerns, and longer recovery times. The franchise medical group will be intimately involved. Monitoring workload, sleep and nutrition, and cardiovascular markers will be mandatory. That's not finger wagging, it's insurance. If Watson is to remain viable, he'll need a robust sports science program around him, incremental conditioning, a nutrition plan that favors function over theatrics, and proactive injury prevention work. There's also public optics. A club signing a figure that draws media spectacle has to manage the narrative. The team's statement that they think he can play functions politically. It reframes the story from clickbait to evaluation. The Bucks must ensure they don't become a punchline. Bringing Watson in should be a well-managed developmental play, not a PR stunt. Coaching and schematic adjustments. For Watson to succeed, coaches will have to plan deliberately. Techniques to emphasize, low pad level and inside hand placement, maximize leverage rather than trying to win with pure mass. Controlled stunts where his mass pins blockers into lanes rather than chasing blocks laterally. Short snap windows and quick, reactive assignments to limit stamina drain. Clear snap counts and tempo control on reps so Watson's conditioning is protected. Defensively, Bowles can use Watson to create matchup problems for offenses that rely on gap-based rushing. He can also be a chess piece in red zone defense where blocking angles are condensed and a single gap closure can stop a touchdown. A human opportunity, not just a football one. This signing also offers Watson a real second chance. A structured environment with professional coaching and medical support. If he buys into the program, reduces non-functional mass, and shows consistent on-field value, he could carve a niche and even earn a standard contract. NFL history has examples of non-traditional body types finding roles, albeit rarely, but those successes come from disciplined conditioning and a coachable attitude. Bottom line, Desmond Watson's return to the Buccaneers practice squad is a high-variance move. It could yield a situational monster who forces offenses to respect a different kind of defensive look, or it could end up as a short-lived experiment that never translates to consistent game value. The key variables aren't headlines or weight metrics, they're conditioning metrics, coaching integration, and workload management. If Tampa Bay treats Watson like a project, patient, measured, and clinical, they might unlock a unique situational asset. If they treat him like a spectacle, the outcome will likely be the same. Spectacle. Either way, the story is worth watching because it forces the league to reckon with a simple question. How do you turn extraordinary size into extraordinary football value? The answer will be revealed one snap at a time. Desmond Watson is getting a second chance with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, rejoining the practice squad after showing improved conditioning in a recent workout. The 6'6" defensive tackle, who measured near 460 pounds at his pro day and drew national attention as one of the heaviest prospects ever recorded, went undrafted this year and spent training camp on the non-football illness list while the Bucs worked with him on weight and conditioning goals. Tampa Bay coach Todd Bowles was direct when asked whether the move was situational theater for an upcoming matchup. "We'll never bring him in just to stop a tush push," Bowles said. "If we bring him in, we think he can play." That line matters. The team frames the decision as a developmental football move, not a gimmick. Watson's size is extreme by modern standards. No active NFL player currently exceeds 400 pounds, and the last lineman known to play at that weight was Aaron Gibson more than 2 decades ago. At his heaviest, Watson can occupy blockers, clog interior running lanes, and demand double teams. Those traits make him intriguing as a space-eating nose on early downs. But today's game also prizes quickness, endurance, and play-to-play agility, attributes that are harder to maintain at such mass. Medical monitoring, technique, conditioning, and availability will determine whether Watson is a practice squad curiosity or a legitimate rotational piece. The roster context helps explain the opportunity. The Bucs lost first-round pick Khalija Kancey for the season, creating interior depth needs, and Tampa has been adding options along the defensive line. A practice squad spot gives Watson structured coaching, time to adapt to an NFL conditioning program, and a path to demonstrate that his physical differences can be coached into consistent play at the pro level. What comes next is straightforward: repeatable on-field improvement. If Watson can show better mobility, sustained conditioning, and dependable snaps against NFL competition in practice and the preseason window, a short-term elevation is possible. If not, the fascination around his size may outlast any on-field contributions. Either way, Watson's return is a reminder of how NFL teams balance raw, unusual talent with modern performance standards, and how opportunity can open for players who commit to change.